You're listening to Mentoring Developers. Let's describe waterfall as a development strategy or development style. So there may be a lot of people out there who don't know what that is.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. So when software was just getting started as a commercially viable product, and this is in like the 60s and 70s, most of the software they were building was stuff like sort of line of business operations. So things like payroll systems and that kind of thing. And they thought about software the same way they thought about hardware, which was that you needed to specify upfront everything that you wanted the product to do. And so they would have a phase at the beginning of a project which did not involve any developers at all, just involved folks that were involved in the business system that it was being built. And they would imagine everything that they wanted the software to do. And they would negotiate, this department needs this, but that department needs that. And can we have both? And they would, and at no point are technical staff involved at this point, right? Like it's mostly just folks that are like, okay, there might be someone there who's like, that's possible, that's not possible. But for the most part, it's folks trying to figure out like, what do they want the software to do? And they specify it down to very minute details. Often they're like, okay, here, this screen needs to be like this. And then this form, need to be able to fill out this form with these validations on the fields, and phone number has to be formatted like this. And if they make any mistakes, here's what happens, and here's the color that it shows up in. And so they do all of this without ever seeing anything working. And then once they're done, once I think they've specified everything that they want the software to do, then they give it to, at that point, what they would do is they would give it to the software designers who would then, or architects, sometimes they were called, who would design a software system that could do this thing. And they would do all of that without ever writing any code, without ever touching really an actual computer. And then it would be turned over to the developers to just implement that design. And so the reason that they called this process waterfall is because you can think of it like a waterfall that goes down in a cascading series of pools. So it starts in the top pool, which is like the product design. And once that's finished, then it moves down into the next pool, which is software design. And once that is completely finished, then it moves down into the next pool, which is software development. And once that's finished, it moves down into the next one, which is software testing. And over the years, they figured out that there were shortcomings with this product, with this model, right? And the big shortcoming is really that the feedback loops are very long. If they make a mistake in the specification of the software in the first stage, they may not catch it until, it may not be obvious until they've got working code that is a mistake. And at that point, it's very expensive to fix because they've gone through all of these other stages in the meantime. And it might mean that they have to completely back up again to the design stage and start over. And so the feedback loop for mistakes was very, very long. And one thing that we've learned about software over the years is that our software is always going to be wrong. We're always going to build the right thing, or the wrong thing, rather, first. And as a result, we need a process that takes that into account and makes it so that the fact that we make these mistakes, that we don't want a process that reduces mistakes necessarily. What we want is a process that's resilient to mistakes, because we will make them. And so most of the software development methodology over the last 50 years has moved in the direction of what they call iterative development in some way or another, in which the feedback loops, you try and make them shorter, which means that someone comes up with a feature idea, design throws together a couple of wireframes, development puts together something that is some low-fidelity version of it, and then the product design people look at it and decide if that's what they want or not. And instead of that process taking months or years, that process can all be done in a single day. And so what that means is that when you're following an iterative development methodology as opposed to a waterfall methodology, you are taking into account inevitable human frailty. it's never a good idea to bet against human frailty, because people are messy, people are inconsistent, people don't know what they want. But we're building software for people, and we're building them using teams of people. And so we need to make sure that our process doesn't assume some kind of idealized, perfect person that never makes mistakes, because that is only going to lead to disappointment.
Yeah. And there are other qualities of software that you can't find in the rest of the world. Software by nature evolves. And things that you hold in your hand, they don't evolve. Thank you so much for listening.
For show notes and transcripts, visit us at mentoringdevelopers.com.